Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve Thornton here. So today we're going to look at this brand new Corrado 150 DC. So I just got this, just received it. I ordered it a few weeks ago. Got lost in the mail. They sent me another one. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but I used Van Dam Warehouse. Great people. They made sure that since the post office didn't send me my first one, they contacted me and said, look, we're going to send you a second. So they did. But anyway, so I get this brand new Corrado 150 DC, and of course the first thing you want to do is feel it, and it's smooth. But what I notice is it's really tight. Like, that's about it on the handle spin. So I don't ever take them out of the box and start spinning it fast. I'll spin them really slow for a while, like this, and then I'll speed up, and eventually I think she's kind of loosened up a little, but she just feels really tight, like and that's what I got play in here. I'll back that off some more so that you can hear it clicking. My drag's kind of not tight, but kind of medium, but still. Now, as far as when you spin your spool, it's already stopped. It's hard to see because it's solid green. Now, I will put electrical tape as a backer on that, but I haven't spooled it up, haven't done anything. But here we go. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, stopped. So it's stopping by 5 seconds. Spinning it, I've got the spool loose. You can hear it clicking. So, what do? I could fish with it easily for a year, just like it is. The handle knobs don't even spin on it. So, I'll show you what I do. I don't want to do it on a brand new reel, but I'm gonna have to. Look at that. It's like one or two revolutions and it's done. Brakes. So we're gonna tear into her. The other thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change the spool bearings out already. I'm gonna put these Hogtech ceramic spool bearings in. So these are $8 a piece, Tackle Warehouse or at hogtech.com. Highly recommend them. You won't believe the difference. So stick around. By the way, on a side note, I'm not going to film the whole process today. What I am going to film is I'm going to try to show you guys how to change your spool bearings if you want to, and I'll try to show you the difference when we're done. And I'm going to show you one step in my series on disassembling, cleaning, and servicing a reel. There was one step I left out, so I'll put that one in this video as well, so that because I actually missed a bearing in there, forgot all about it. So anyway, stick around, get her done. Okay, for starters, before we really tear her down and lube her up, I'm going to go ahead and switch these bearings out right off the bat. So on a Corrado DC, you're going to turn this knob until it says open and pop that side plate off. Now you'll notice the brake, the digital control brake is inside here. So we're gonna have to disassemble that. And the other side, I may be able to access from the inside of the reel. Normally what you would do is you would take this knob out. And you'll have to move your handle and your drag star in order for that to line up, where it can come out of there. Oops. I'll tighten her down a little, adjust her, there we go. And now my drag starts back over the top because I keep hitting my handle. Now normally to replace these or change these bearings out, all you gotta do is pull this cap off. You're gonna have an E-clip in there, the original bearing. It's brand new, of course. Go ahead and pull the spool out, and so you'll pop this little E-clip out with a small flat tip screwdriver, which I have right here. Now Be very, very, very careful when you do this to not lose this E-clip, because it loves to go flying. Ask me how I know. And when they go flying, you never know where they're going to land, and they're typically hard to find. So I kind of keep my finger as much over the hole as I can while I pry it up. There it is. And just so once it popped, it just came shooting out. Luckily the screwdriver caught it. Alright, so in order to get it out, we're going to take a pair of needle nose and a Q-tip. We're going to cut the end of the Q-tip off. We're going to bend the end over and make a hook, a small hook, just like that. Now I think there's a washer under this, so be very careful and watch what comes out. So we're going to stick that in. We're going to lift this bearing out. It's probably going to pull the bearing and the washer. And all I got was the bearing, so that's good. So I'm going to set the bearing down on the towel. I'm going to grab the new Hogtech, which I haven't even opened, but I just recently did several of my reels, and man, these things, they spin forever. Alright, so I'm going to grab the new ceramic bearing. Really it looks about the same as the other. Move the handle around. We're going to set our new bearing in. Just push it down in there. Now we're going to take our E-clip. On a Corrado, it only has one E-clip. On a Corrado DC, there's only one E-clip. On the standard Corrado, it's got an E-clip on both sides. So again, I'm going to set that in. Try to rotate my handle around to where I can operate. And then I'm going to keep my finger over it and just push that E-clip down in there, hopefully. Making sure it's in the groove. And it looks like that. Okay, one side's done. So to do the other side, so at this point, I'll go ahead and put this cap back on the spool bearing. I'm not going to tighten it, but I'm going to have it on there where I can at least operate the reel. You want to make sure you get it straight and don't cross thread. If it feels tight right away, it's cross threaded. So I go backwards. And then I'll start screwing it on. Still cross threaded. So I probably should have waited to do this till after I had the handle and everything out of the way. So I'm going to leave this cap off. You don't have to have the handle off to do this, but it would be much easier to have the handle and the drag out of your way. Alright, stop the video and I'll start back. Okay, now we're going to do the other side. So this is the brake side. You're going to have some screws you got to take out. There's 1, 2, 3, and the whole assembly should come out. So I'm going to point the camera down so you can kind of see what I'm doing here while I do it. I'm trying to move halfway quickly here. So I'm going to break these loose one at a time, but I'm not going to take them all the way out until they're all three broken loose. Here's 2, here's 3. So the first screw that you do is going to be a bigger screw. The first screw I loosened. So keep your screws in order. Take pictures with your camera so you can remember how it came apart and goes back together. There's screw number 2. and it's kind of stuck, so I'll go ahead and do screw number 3. Alright, so there's the big one, goes in this hole. Number 2 just kind of fell on the bottom. So you got 2 small screws and a big. Here's your brake. Now watch this little plastic piece, it's glued on and it likes to come off. So we're going to take a screwdriver. Your bearing is under here. So we're going to take a small flat tip. Now, I apologize for the noise. I've got this magnet sitting out in case I need it. Alright, so we're going to push this across like so with a small flat tip screwdriver. Then, so you got this little metal bar here. Then you got a little mesh, like a screen. Now on this one I'm going to end up taking a Q-tip and I'm going to clean some of this oil out of here, because you don't want oil on your new ceramic bearings. There's a rubber or plastic washer, and it's got grooves on it. It's rubber, and the grooves point up to hold your metal bar. And then this little screen right here that just fell out, so that's next. And now you got your bearing. Okay, watch underneath this one in case there's a washer. I'm looking for my Q-tip, which is my bearing removal tool. Stick it in. Bearing comes out. Now there's a washer attached to this bearing. So I'm going to slide. So I'm going to set the bearing on my towel. And these spool bearings on the Corrado DCs are the same size. I'm going to take my Q-tip and I'm just going to rub around the inside, get all the oil out of there that I can, just with a dry Q-tip. I'm going to open my Hogtech. I'm going to push it in, and then we reassemble. I'm going to grab a paper towel. That was one thing I forgot to bring to the table with me. So there's some oil on this little screen here, so I'm just going to kind of dab it with the paper towel, squeeze a little, stick it back in. Then I'm going to stick this rubber washer back in, trying to line it up so that your grooves are on the top and bottom, and it will accept this bar that slides in that holds everything in place. Now on this, you want to make sure that you don't, when you put your bar back in, that you don't push on your screen, or you don't go underneath your screen, you go over the top of everything, and that your rubber washer stays in place. So you just kind of have to work it around in there. And also keeping this where it goes, because there's oil inside here and it wants to come off. And it's off. I'm going to set that down. Okay. Now my bar is back in where it goes. I'm going to set this back where it was, this plastic ring here, which happens to have so much glue on it that, or so much oil on the glue, that it doesn't stay stuck for some reason. But now it's back together, and I'm gonna just rotate this into place. Just like that. Line my screw holes up. Everything should be lined up. It all feels nice and tight. Now this is the first one that I've actually had. Like I said, it's brand new. I've never even been in the reel. But this is the first one that little plastic ring on the brake has actually come off on me. But they're not, it's kind of iffy every time, honestly. So I'm going to put these screws back in. I'm not tightening them, I'm just starting them. A couple turns. Get it all, that way it stays nice and lined up. Now I'll go ahead and tighten this last one. So grab a screwdriver, put the big one in. Always start them backwards first. You're going to have to put some pressure on them because they're real aggressive threads. Bring it down till it's tight. Bring these down till they're tight. Alright, tight, tight, and tight. And remember, these are in plastic, so you don't want to strip them. Alright, so now the spool bearings are changed. Now I'm going to go into the reel. I'm actually going to clean it up and put some lube in it, and which will be basically what my last video was. And when I'm inside it on the main shaft, I'll show you the one bearing I missed, and we'll get her cleaned up and get her back together. Okay guys, I'm going to flip the camera around here. I'm going to show you. So I've got the reel basically completely disassembled. The one thing I forgot last time was to take these two screws out, which I'll flip the camera back around and do that part. So there's a bearing under here. That's under the main shaft. These are tiny little Phillips head screws. So you'll just take this piece. Now that bearing in there is pretty tight and snug in the hole that it sits in. So we'll push these screws out. Now they've got grease on that bearing. I'm going to clean all that up and put some oil on it, but this is the one step that I missed on the last video was this one bearing here, which needs to be cleaned and, in my opinion, cleaned and oiled. I try to oil all the bearings, I don't grease them. So when I start the camera back, she should be clean, serviced, and reassembled, and then we'll test her out. Alright guys, so this reel is already clean. It's not dirty by any means. The problem with it is when I open it and take it out of the box, it feels really tight and stiff, and I think the grease that they put in these reels, they do it thinking, like for instance on this bearing here, they grease it because they have to assume that the reel is never going to be taken apart and never serviced, so they use a really heavy grease on what they do. But overall the reel seems to be really dry. So I'm going to take one drop of oil here. Now this has a little C-clip on it on this bearing. Put one drop of oil on that bearing. And the good thing about having a brand new reel, it's not dirty, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time cleaning. I'm just going to try to remove the heavy grease they've got on it, and I'm going to put the Ardent reel butter that I use in all the gears and on everything that's moving inside the reel. I'm going to put oil in this bearing here, and that's pretty much it. Besides, I'm going to put some oil inside here on your thumb bar. Put a little oil in there, and the rest of the moving parts are going to get grease. So that's pretty much all I'm doing. I'm going to re-grease her, and I'm going to clean the drag, clean the washers off. I'm going to re-grease them with the Ardent reel grease. It just feels so much smoother. I'm going to grease all the gears, clean and grease the worm gear, and then we should be done. And one more tip for you guys that I didn't put in my last video. If you will take a small art paintbrush and squirt your grease on that. You can apply it to everything that you want. You just squirt grease onto the brush, and then you can brush it out nice and thin. It doesn't get all globbed up. So that actually works really well for applying plenty but not too much grease on all your moving parts. I'll put it, which I've gone over all this already in my other videos, so I want to grease my slides on my thumb bar, and the paintbrush just is nice and flat, gets down in there, gets a nice little coat of grease on everything. Everything moving is going to get grease. All moving parts except for your ball bearing that was in here is going to get oil, and it already has it. And then I'm going to put a drop of oil right inside here because there's no way to get grease in there. What I don't want to do is put a bunch of oil, so I'm going to put a little drop and then I'll wipe it off. I don't want so much oil in there that it drips down into the reel and gets everything gunky. Alright, so now once again, when I start the video back, she'll probably be put back together. I'm going to still take the drag apart. Everything was kind of stuck together here. And I'm going to clean all this off. I'm going to re-grease everything, re-grease the gear that has what looks to be no grease in it, which could be a big explanation of why this reel doesn't spin freely. It just feels stiff. The grease that's on here is really thick, heavy. So I hit all that, clean her up, re-grease her, and like I said, she's not dirty, she's just greasy. The grease is just really thick, made to last a really long time. And I'm after smooth, and I don't want to feel it when I'm reeling. I just want just natural, like I'm doing this. So catch you on a bit. Alright guys, so she's back together now. So I just kind of cleaned all the thick heavy grease I got in there, re-lubed everything, oiled the bearings. And I started out, of course, spinning really slowly just to get the grease on all the parts before I sling it off. And then after a couple minutes, you gradually start speeding up. And eventually, you end up with that. So there's your difference. She's not spinning 2 revolutions and stopping anymore. She just keeps going. Much nicer. So I haven't done anything on the spool except change the spool bearings. There's no weight on it, so it is going to stop pretty quick. I've got my brake set at number 2, but I'm going to give her spin. She's spinning. Now remember, the first one only spun 5 seconds. She's still spinning. Still spinning, and I know it's hard for the camera to see because of the dark green color on it. She's still spinning. There's one hole in the spool that I'm looking at while it's going around and around making revolutions. Still spinning. And I don't have a stopwatch going or anything, but now she stopped. Spinning. These ceramic Hogtech bearings, they're a little louder than your normal bearings. It's going to make a little bit of noise, but I tell you what, it's worth it. They cast so smooth. She's still spinning. Still going. Still going. Now she's slowing down. So once I'm going to put 1 layer of electrical tape on this. And once I do that, and I string it up, and it's got that extra weight on here, she'll probably spin for a minute. But man, how can you beat that? I don't know if you can hear it. And that's with me holding it. So if I tilt it over, that lets the spool go to one side or the other, which is going to slow it down quicker. But unbelievable difference. So the reel working awesome. She's no longer doing her 2 revolution and stop like she's got her brakes on. I can spin the handle. Brand new reel. Now she's ready to go. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Take care, guys.